and welcome to the Gatorade Duels. Some of the most intense racing we will see in all of Speed Week sometimes happen today. The Gatorade Duels, the twin 125's, trying to race your way into the Daytona 500. 62 cars will vie for 42 starting spots. And we have a whole host of drivers hoping their chances to make the Daytona 500 comes true today. James Shelley will start from the pole on Sunday, but a win today would be even better for him. Alongside of him is Anthony Marchese in the 54. He knows he'll be in the Daytona 500. Great qualifying effort for him on pole day, and that was the main goal for Marchese because he had no owner points to fall off. With me today in the booth, we got Zach Rogers back in the booth with me.
Yep, and we're looking to see, like, after these 50 laps, you know, who's going to race their way in, who's going to have to fall back on time, and then worst case scenario, you better hope you got a good standing outside the top 30 in owner points because that's your last fallback.
We won't know until after the Gatorade Duels who gets in through the provisionals. You know, there's some drivers that are very high in the owner points and they know they have a good standing, but you have to try and race your way into the duels today. We'll try and cover you throughout the race in both duel races and see where the transfer position lies. When we go green, Marchese and Bobo Jones will have the two spots that everyone will be chasing. Blake Warren just outside of it alongside of Bobo Jones. But as we come to the green flag is out for Duel 1. Already wasting no time down to the inside. Car 0, Eric DeMax, the Sony Shootout winner, trying to get to the front early.
And we saw in the shootout that if you can get to the front and your car is fast enough, you can lead this line for a good 10 laps or so if no one can challenge you. So getting to the front early might be the way to go, but it looks like we're going to go 3 wide already into turn 3.
This is going to be a very intense race, I assume. All the Gorga homers from further on back going to be doing all they can to be able to charge to the front, but I suspect you're going to need to be right there with the leaders. Last year in the Gatorade Duel, we saw the transfer position be inside the top 5, and there's 3x3 in the first 4 rows. Cody Lamas, the defending Daytona 500 champion, taking the lead with a push from Dylan Young. Cannot believe that they're already just 3x3. Some of these guys, this is just the qualifying race. Don't need to wad up the Daytona 500 car early. But Lamas getting the push from Dylan Young. Young and Sanford, they were really quick in the Sony Shootout. Ryan Acosta in the 24 was also flexing some muscle in that race, taking some of that experience and knowledge from the Sony Shootout into the Gatorade Duel. As far as everybody in the pack, J.D. Martin, Lane Sanders, Hayden Klein, seems like everyone's having a good chance to be able to hang on to the draft. And that's what a lot of teams have struggled with in the past, is be able to stay with the leaders. Looks like everyone's doing that so far.
Yeah, this race is a good test to show these new teams or these inexperienced teams what they've got in the draft, especially when we go to Dega later in the season. You know, if you can't really hold in the draft here in this duel race, you've got work to do before that race if you plan on trying to qualify into that.
Dejon Weeks is always very good at Daytona and Talladega, but usually he was driving a Ford. You know, last year he drove a Chevy and was contending with Cody Lamas for the Daytona 500 win. Just came up a little short that season. Dylan Young peeking out front with the advantage. The transfer position right now, it's heating up. Bobby Jones has to qualify in by racing in. He's got no owner points, and he's not good enough on speed. He's got the inside line. That's a flip side motorsports car trying to come to the front. He's alongside Bobo Jones and Anthony Marchese. Blake Warren's the lead go-homer.
And you can just see right now there's really nowhere to go. You've got Dejan, Cody, and D. Young leading every line at the front. And really it's just a battle of the lines trying to get supremacy over the others. It's just neck and neck.
Bobby Jones alongside of Blake Warren, the Mercedes. And that's the top two cars. Looking further back, you know, some drivers that didn't qualify. Failed pre-season inspection, Jeffrey White. And there's Bradley Bishop Jr. Bishop Jr., he qualified into the big race in last season's Daytona 500. He's looking to try and do that again. No owner points to fall back on. And Allen Family Racing Team's really good here. Hayden Klein, a past season champion. But Luke Martin's got the most recent past series champion provisional. And Klein likely has to race his way in today. James Ellison did really well last season at Talladega in the spring. He's trying to get Crossroad Racing in the Daytona 500. J.D. Martin picking up the rear with Lane Sanders. But so far, all 31 cars are within a shout. 6 laps in. Ryan Acosta with Dom Capps to the inside. Dylan Young and Cody Lama still hanging in the first 3 rows. And Capps looking to the inside. They are 3 abreast all the way through this pack. Oh, and Lama's trying to squeeze his way to the outside. Acosta pitching Young. Have to be very careful.
They did the same thing there last time by through the trial. That's what pushed Cody up to the top and D. Young up to the middle, and now they've done it once again. So now you've got D. Young all the way on the top. 2 laps ago, he was leading that bottom line. And now it looks like we might start seeing the bottom come to play here. It looks like everyone's just trying to get off the bottom, but by doing that, they're letting themselves fall back. So we're going to start maybe seeing a bit of a cycle here early on in this duel.
What is this? Like, Flipside Motorsports comes into their debut season, brings a veteran in Bobby Jones, and Jones in the 63. He won the dual qualifier last season, but he was driving for Monster Energy Racing. But a new team in Flipside to the inside, getting pushed by Charlie Smith. What do you think about this, Zach?
Yeah, Bobby's going to have a good year ahead of him down in the Napa Truck Series as we're almost 4 wide here at the front of the field. But Bobby knows his way around a racetrack in the Sony Cup Series as well. This guy's got a lot of talent, so wouldn't be really much of a surprise to me if they can race their way in here. They just got to place themselves at the front at the right time.
Ford, Mercedes, Pontiac. That is the first 3 rows. These go-homers. Look at Bob Burns for Auto. He's found his way to the inside, pushing Peter Onjak, and he's got a way to the front. The inside line really rolling right now. But this race, no matter how 3 wide racing, pit stops are going to be coming up in a handful of laps. And as always, it doesn't matter how you run in the pack. It always seems to end up how you get on and off pit road. You have to make a pit stop in the Gatorade duels. And with the way the duels are, you have to be able to get on and off pit road with a pack and put yourself in position to race your way into this Daytona 500. The Allen Family Racing Team cars are on the inside. Arndt taking a peek to the inside of his teammate of Chris Dodd. Dodd moves up. Charlie Smith leading the Gatorade duel.
Yeah, and right now I'm just seeing that the top side and the middle, they've kind of just lost all their momentum. And we're just seeing everybody from the bottom come up to the front, slide up the track, and it's just a continuous circle right now. So depending how this circle ends when it's time to come to pit road, that's going to be very crucial for a lot of these go-home drivers, because if they're at the back, they're going to really have to get on the brakes coming into pit road, but if they're at the front, they're going to be able to send it right on in there.
They were temporarily 3 wide for the transfer position. They still sort of are. Bobo Jones, Bobby Jones, and Bob Burns. They're 3 wide in that pack, with Bobo Jones pulling ahead of the 80 and the 63. Bobo pushing that 79, which is a Cybertron Motorsports entry. Bobo qualified very well for North Border Motorsports. We know they get an alliance from Rodriguez Racing, and they look nearly 4 wide, and they are at the very back of the field. But for Bobo Jones to qualify in on pole day, don't think many people really expected that from that race team. But they'll be fielding the number 13 car part-time this season. And you know, the part-time car, highest part-time car in owner points at the end of the year, earns the final charter for the 2023 season. And that race team has a lot of hope that they can actually get better and better and be able to compete for wins as the years go along. This team's gotten better every season. Bobo's found his way to the bottom with Daniel Bouchard. They're 3 wide with Dodd, Sanford, and Arndt. Young looked like further back. He wanted to get to the middle line. But Stephen Pollard III, who's also trying to race his way into this Daytona 500, he's in the middle, trying to get a big push. And who is that? That's Sean Harple. Young has found his way to the middle.
And we were single file 2 wide there at the front for a moment there. I think some of the drivers on the bottom, they don't have as much horsepower or whatever it is to lead that bottom line. You saw it with Onjak was leading the line, and the bottom just kind of died off there for a moment. But now you've got guys from the middle and top jump back down, as Charles Sanford's doing a heck of a job leading this thing right now. But he's got a little too much distance. I think he's going to get sucked up to here in a moment, and he might end up finding himself going backwards.
Charles Sanford ran really well in the Sony shootout. Didn't quite get up to the lead like he is now, but he has pulled a heck of a margin on the pack. He's got about 3 or 4 car lengths, it seems, on the field. Arndt and Bobo Jones. The transfer position is Bobo and Daniel. But here comes the S3 Motorsports and Anjado. Some top teams in the Napa Truck Series showing their hand in the Cups level with their part-time cars, the 03 and the 80. But on the top, Bobby Jones and Blake Warren trying to push their way back to the front, and Bobo getting pushed to the middle. Here comes Bouchard. That's another Red Bull racing car finding its way to the lead.
And, you know, there's a lot of unknowns with Pontiac and Mercedes coming into this year. But so far, it looks like their super speedway presence is kind of established here. You've got Charles leading the race. You had Bobby and Blake get to the front. So I think these new manufacturers are off to a pretty good start, at least on the super speedway side of things.
These Go-Ergo homers are showing that you have to bring your A game if you want to make the Daytona 500. Second and third position as we come across the line are Go-Ergo homers. And Bobo Jones pulled right up to the back end of Charles Sanford. Bobo knows he's going to be in the Daytona 500 already on speed, does not have to worry about where he's running, but I got a feeling the way Bobo runs in the Hardy's National Series, that he's going to want to go for the win. He's got him and Sanford pulling that margin. Here comes Charlie Smith, and Shade Eves in the 03 has broke out of that pack and pushing Charlie Smith up to the leaders. He's now in the transfer position.
Seeing that little bit of tire wear start to kick in here and letting them get single file at the front, that's going to create some huge runs, giving us moves like this. Oh, watch out now. John Arndt's going to get a huge run here.
Arndt trying to pull up the back end of Charlie Smith. Smith's not usually known for his super speedway ability, but he's up here with the leaders, and I'm just very impressed with North Border Motorsports and some of these Go-Ergo homers being able to get up to the lead. That just shows maybe some of these cars like James Shelley further back. We see him back in the 20s. Matthew Rodriguez is back there as well. Maybe they're not too worried about trying to get up there with the leaders and mix it up. Sanford's dominating the race right now as the tire wear kicks in, like you said.
Yeah, indeed. It's really starting to spread out now. Pack's kind of stretching out from the looks of things, getting more just 2 wide racing. This is pretty good for the pit stops here because you don't want to be going 3 wide crazy through the whole field when it's time to come to pit road. So getting a little bit of 2 wide, a little bit of room side to side, it's going to let getting into the pit lane a lot easier. But things can still get crazy if you're not careful.
The last 2 laps, it seems like the field has really spread apart. From Sanford all the way back to Sanders, the field is still bunched together within 2 seconds. See some contenders that were at the front. You know, the shootout winner, Eric DeMax, is at the very back, pushing James Ellison. You see there's Dejon Weeks in the middle of the pack. So we know there's some strong contenders that really aren't too worried about being up here with the leaders. Still, it's the familiar sight as the last 5 laps has been with Sanford. Bobo Jones getting shoved very high. Dylan Young getting his way to the inside of Chris Dodd. Ryan Acosta, Cody Lamas. Lamas has found his teammate in Jeffrey White. That transfer position still going on. Bobo Jones looked like he could be getting passed by Blake Warren. Warren in the 79, door-to-door with the 33. Now Warren and Bouchard and Bobo Jones all have a very good possibility. We know Bobo Jones is already in, but Warren and Bouchard, we know Bouchard's going to be in through a provisional at least because he's the highest car in owner points that's not locked in. But Warren, he's the next car that's out on speed. So he's got a good chance to make the Daytona 500 if he doesn't race in. Tib Foster in the 37. Monster Energy Racing has looked very strong in preseason, but Tib Foster, no owner points for the 37 and not quick enough on speed. Foster will need to race his way in today, and he's got a teammate in the field with Dejon Weeks.
Yeah, you just look at those owner points too, and you go down the list, and then you also look at the drivers who could potentially get in on speed if Bobo and some other guys race their way in. And some of those cars are in the same positions. You know, they could get in on speed, they could race their way in, or they could also get in on a provisional if they're in that high enough area there, outside top 30, about 31st to 38th range, I'd say. Maybe more so 31st to 35th to be safe, because the 33 is locked in on speed, and that car came in 34th in owner points, so he doesn't have to worry about provisional there.
See some cars trying to get to the inside. Bob Burns, I was just watching him in turns 1 and 2 in the 80 car. He was tucked up behind Dejon Weeks, but the handle on that car just not that good. As the tire wear kicks in, he lost a lot of time and allowed for a handful of cars in front of him to get in front of him. The inside line's probably going to be the line to be in. I expect this field to pit within the next 10 laps. But Sanford has just ruled this race. Nobody's been able to really challenge him. Dodd's been able to stay up here with him as well. Curtis Racing trying to get to the inside and come to the front with the 48 and the 11.
Yeah, we saw Cody up front here earlier in the race. It looks like he's managed to pull his teammate up here with him this time around. But starting to really see the field, you know, they were like just 4 laps ago, they were starting to string it out, and then they accordioned right back up. So you're going to see guys get these huge runs, and they'll string it out, but once that momentum dies, they clump right back together, and we're 3 wide, about 7 rows deep once again.
3 wide again for the transfer position. 03, 42, 37. Blake Warren is the lead Gorga Homer. Shade Eves getting that momentum. The 42 struggled a little bit to stay with Dom Caps, but Bishop Jr. getting that push from Bobby Jones. It's going to get him to be right there alongside for position. For the lead, though, could possibly have a lead change. Here comes Chris Dodd, but just doesn't have the speed to get around Charles Sanford.
I really thought Dodd had a chance to make a move there going into 3. He was 3 wide with Cody to his inside, and their momentum just died off, and that 83 car is hooked up here for this dual race. So he's locked in. He's just trying to start up as high in the field of the 500 as he can. So if he wants to start top 10, top 5, this is the way to go.
Top 3 in this duel so far are past Daytona 500 champions. You know, Lamas the defending winner. Dodd won it in 2019. Sanford won it so long ago back in Season 9, but typically knows what he's doing on the super speedways. His last win in the Sony Cup Series coming at Talladega in 2019 with this race team. That's his only win with Red Bull so far. Jeffrey White's been rather committed to the back bumper of the 48. He took one chance to the inside of him at one point, but Lamas pulled back ahead. Curtis Racing has gotten to 2nd and 3rd, but not up to the lead so far. Dejon was mid-pack earlier. He's to the inside of Jeffrey White. Has there been anything that has surprised you so far? I mean, seeing everyone still in a pack is rather surprising to me, because most of the time in the Gatorade duels, we see some stragglers, some cars that just aren't quick enough, you know, hoping for some miracle. But here it seems like everyone's got a good chance, at least. If something happens in pit stops or a wreck happens and they're able to miss it, you know, I'm rather impressed with the way the pack's bunched together.
Yeah, I'm really surprised, honestly, that we haven't seen some cars lose the draft, because right away on like lap 3, you had, I think, the 00, the 38, maybe the 29 it was. They were single file at the back of the pack, and they were kind of spread out, like about a car length gap in front of each. I really thought that one of them might have fallen off the draft, but they've done a great job to stay in the pack. As Dejan's at it again, man. He's going for this race lead. Someone has finally gotten a run on that 83 car.
I think when Cody got alongside of Sanford, it broke the momentum of the 83 just enough, and Dejan had a slingshot run into turn 1. That was rather impressive. And Bradley Bishop Jr. in the 42, he's looking to get to the lead. He didn't qualify. Remember, he failed preseason inspection. No owner points for the 42. The 42 and the 63, they're in the transfer positions. They have to race in. They have no other choice. Same thing with Shade Eves in the 03. He's third on the inside of the Gorga Homers.
Yeah, and Bradley Bishop Jr. in this 42 car, they were wicked fast in this race last year too, so no real surprise he was able to get his way to the front, but now he's got to stay at the front. Like you said, he can't fall back on anything. Well, he's got to race his way in here. He's got to be in one of these top 2 positions, I believe it is, in this duel.
Yes. With Bradley Bishop Jr. and Bobby Jones, veterans on the super speedway, it is going to be mega tough to be able to beat them today now that they got to the front. Dejan and Cody, they almost leaned on each other. Same thing happened to Cody earlier that lost him the lead. And Dejan and Cody still roughing each other up sort of into turn 1. It's allowing Bradley Bishop Jr. to get to the inside. But Dylan Young, man, he has been a heck of a pusher all speed weeks, breaking out in the middle.
And we still got a long way to go. We've still got to get pit stops. That's going to spread the field out if this thing stays green to the finish. Once you spread the field out, you know, anything's going to go, and you could be second in that transfer spot, and someone gets a run on you on the last lap, and boom, you are out of this race. But it looks like the bottom is starting to check up once again. Seeing that top side get a big run here through the tri-oval. We might start to see a bit of stringing out here. You believe we're like a few laps out of pit stops.
You gotta believe they'll be coming to pit road at any moment. Charlie Smith in the 76 getting to the inside. He's got a strong car. He's never won a Sony Cup Series race, period, of any sort. I know this is a qualifying race, but Charlie Smith has kind of been passed around wherever he can get a ride. Landed up at Horizon Group. Young, Lamas, Dejan Weeks. They're the front 3 so far. Bobby Jones and Shade Eves look like they have the transfer positions. And no, that's the 42 that holds it. Bobo Jones just behind. Look for some Gorga Homers. We're past halfway. Some Gorga Homers that are just outside of this. We'll kind of look you through before pit stops. Daniel Bouchard, we know he's in. He doesn't have to worry. Marchese, he knows he's in. He doesn't have to worry. Tib Foster, he has no choice but to race in. He's found himself at the back in the middle. Blake Warren knows he could have a chance to race in, but it all relies on somebody already being in on speed racing in. He probably needs to get up to the front at some point. You can't just rely on somebody else racing in. You got to put destiny in your own hands. James Ellison in the 31. He's still hanging tough. Hayden Klein, Allison Rain, Bob Burns, J.D. Martin. Their hopes are not diminished just yet. We're 20 laps to go. Peter Onjak's locked into this race. But Stephen Pollard III, Mitchell Collins, and Lane Sanders, when you're in the pack, you have a chance. And with pit stops coming up, you have to use that to your advantage. With 20 laps to go, it is anybody's chance to still make the Daytona 500. Their hopes are still alive. Dylan Young pushing Dejan Weeks. Bradley Bishop Jr. trying to pull up to the back of him.
See if anyone's going to jump down now. No, we're still going to go. No one's thinking about pitting just quite yet. Just a touch on that possible Provo situation. Looking at the guys who are in on speed and the guys who could potentially be in on speed. Blake Warren's the first one up for that if one of these 4 guys race their way in. But right behind him, on that same token, is Vince Freeze. And Vince is another one of those drivers who could also get locked in through a provisional. But he is in duel number 2. So we won't know what he's looking like speed-wise until we get to that race. But they're starting to string out once again. This would be a perfect time to pit, in my opinion, because you're not 3 wide. You're not all jumbled up together.
I thought for a moment it looked like somebody was going to make the dive down to pit road, but nobody's making that move just yet. Bradley Bishop Jr., he bobbled a little bit in 3 and 4. He's still the lead go or go homer. Weeks has found his way to the lead. He's been able to hold it. Weeks, Young, Sanford, Lamas, they look very strong in this duel. Probably some of the best that's been up here at the front. Chris Dodd was up here earlier. He lost touch with the leaders. He's now mid-pack.
This is the most we've seen them strung out this entire run.
3
I don't think anyone's gonna want to take tires.
Ooh.
Oh, I think someone's pitting here.
Smith, Charlie Smith in the 76. He's going to come to pit road. The leaders are down pit road. Lane Sanders, Bob Burns, the pole sitter, James Shelley is on pit road. Shade Eves, he needs to try and race his way in. These are the first to come down pit road. Everyone looks like they're still in the pack. Sanford, though, has a large margin.
Yeah, it looks like the pack behind Sanford might have had to check up just that little bit for those that were jumping down. That's another thing you got to be careful about. You don't want to have to check up too much for people pitting in front of you.
You have to get on and off pit road. This is crucial. If you want to make the Daytona 500, you have to get on and off pit road as good as possible. Bobby Jones, Blake Warren, James Ellis, and Hayden Klein. Those are the go-or-go homers I see coming down pit road. Sanford, who has been dominant all day, finally makes the road down pit road. Cody Lamas, Dylan Young. Oh, but Allison Rain.
Matt Rod checked up a ton. I was watching him when they all came down pit road. He had to check up big time. We know he's locked in, but he's likely looking at a starting spot in the rear now.
Dom Capps looks like he's losing touch there. Tip Foster, you know, he's one of those that absolutely has to race in, and he's lost touch with the guys he was staying out with. Bobo Jones, I expect them to come down pit road, but Bradley Bishop Jr. choosing to stay out, and he might actually have a good position here. He's going to get a draft off the cars that are already pitted. James Shelley.
Matt Rod stayed out, too.
And that might have been a really bad move by Matthew Rodriguez.
They are really slow here coming off the pit lane.
I have no clue why they're so slow off this corner.
That's a little hazardous. I hope they didn't throw a yellow for that. They were looking really slow there coming off the apron. We are still green.
So the last of the cars that have came down pit road. See, Bobo Jones, he was one of the lead go-or-go homers. He leaves pit road with Jeffrey White. Seems like everybody's going to get off pit road with each other. But who is going to be the leader? Charlie Smith, Charles Sanford, Dylan Young, Dejon Weeks. They look like they're going to be the lead of the cars that have already pitted. It's going to be about 15 laps to go when we re-rack them as these cars go around everybody. This is one of the first times at Daytona cars have merged up in turn 1. A lot of people have warned about maybe that being a safety hazard, but that looks like that's going to be the case for the procedure of leaving pit road for the Daytona 500. Charlie Smith looks like he's going to lead this Gatorade duel. Bobo Jones is going to be in a good position here to possibly race his way in.
Yeah, you know, that pack, they got spread out, but because there were so few of them, they were able to dive it in harder, and then they were also able to take a little less fuel, so that saved them about a second or two. That could be big. Who's that coming out of pit road there? There's the 9. Look at how far behind he was. He was able to take so little fuel compared to the rest of these guys. He's going to come out right in front of them.
I cannot believe that. Unbelievable strategy. It may still not even work. It's the first pack that goes
BBJ
by.
up there?
Bradley Bishop Jr.? Yes, it is. Bradley Bishop Jr. stayed out the longest with Matthew Rodriguez. Remember, he had that draft off the cars that had already pitted. He's going to be in a beautiful position here to try and race his way into the 500. What a call by that Allen family racing team.
All right, so now you got to look at who you have in this pack. Because you know Bobo can get in on time.
Trying to race your way into the Daytona 500. Bishop Jr. is going to be the race leader. But for the Go-Erga homers, it is Bishop Jr., Bobo Jones, and then it's Shade Eves and Bob Burns for Anjado that is in this lead pack.
There you see, there's the problem, right? So Bobo knows, like, he can get in on speed, but he wants to start as high as he can. So he's going to try and race his way in here because he wants to start up near the front. So that's going to make it a big battle here between BBJ, Shade Eves, and Bob Burns. So it's on here with what will be 13 to go at the line.
For Bobo Jones, he's going to be the one that we're going to have to watch here, I think. He doesn't have a care in the world of the Go-Erga homers right now. He wants to get up there and try and win with this team. This team is affiliated with Rodriguez Racing. They failed to qualify for a lot of races. They had trouble finding a full-time driver, so they have a lot of drivers fielding in that 33 car all season. But that 33 car is hooked up, and it's really quick. But for the final transfer position, Shade Eves, S3 Motorsports, it has been a long time for them. Been a couple of years since they have qualified into the Daytona 500. Shade Eves is in that final transfer position, but Bradley Bishop Jr., Eves, Bishop Jr., and Burns, they have no choice but to race their way in, and they have a good chance to do it. In the second pack, I don't know if they'll be able to run them back down. They're over 3 seconds back. Led by Matthew Rodriguez, they lost a little bit of time to the leaders. They're almost within a touching distance to try and get some sort of draft. Shelley, the pole sitter. Eric DeMax, the shootout winner. Matthew Rodriguez, a past 500 winner. If they can get lined up, they can run them leaders back down. Bouchard and Blake Warren, you know, they have really strong chances to make the 500 through qualifying speed or provisional. Oh, and John Art there. Tip Foster in the 37. Allison Rain and Lane Sanders. Sanders has been like the caboose of the train the whole race, and he has found himself in the second pack. If they can get lined up and back up there with the leaders, have a good chance for any of these Go-Erga homers in the first or second pack that could possibly still race their way in, barring a caution.
Yeah, Blake's the one guy right now who's hoping Bobo races his way in so that he doesn't have to rely on that speed, because Blake is the next guy up. But, you know, you talked about that 33. They're going to have multiple drivers in that car all year long. You know, they asked me to come in very late in the off season, but I told them, you know, I gained 20 pounds. I let myself go. I can't get back in the car now.
How about that, though? Bobo Jones, he was in the lead going into turn 3. Sanford powers back. But that just shows that that car, they have worked long hours to be able to get that car as fast as it is. Bob Burns desperately trying to hang on to this pack. This is as good of a chance Anj Auto is going to have. They came very close to having Gatlin Downey race his way into the Daytona 500 last season. And Burns is in a similar position. I don't necessarily remember off the top of my head if Bob Burns has even started a Sony Cup Series race. And he's in position to try and race his way in the top 10 in the Gatorade Duel, racing with some veterans of the series. Sanford, Jones, side by side for the lead.
And we saw down the back straightaway there, BBJ and Eves, they were side by side behind Jeffrey White. White moved to the top, and Eves was behind him for a second, but then he saw BBJ still on the bottom, so he jumped it right down to the middle. They are side by side for that last transfer spot, and Bob is right there willing to pounce. It looks like BBJ is going to get ahead using the bottom, and now Shade's going to jump down and follow him.
It looks like Bob Burns doesn't have a real good car. I think Burns is really going to need somebody to get behind him. Maybe when tire wear kicks in just a little bit near the end, if he has a car that can get in front of somebody, he maybe can get the push. to try and race his way in. But the task right now for him is to hang on to the lead pack. But the second pack looks like it's closing so little, but still the gap is still over 3 seconds. But with DeMax and Shelley leading it, they have a chance maybe. But with them side by side, it's going to be mighty tough. They did gain just a little bit, about a tenth or two.
They can get within a second and a half. They're going to start to feel the wake of that lead pack.
Oh!
That's going to help them a lot. Oh,
Charlie
buddy.
Smith. Bradley Bishop Jr. trying to push his way through. Made contact with the 76.
I'll tell you what's going to have that help that second pack right now is them going 3 wide. If they keep going 3 wide up here, that second pack will suck right on up. It's going to be very interesting once we get to, I think, like 4 to go or so.
Dejon Weeks has been one of the strong cars. He's finding his way back to the front again. Pushing Charles Sanford, Monster Energy Racing, and Red Bull Racing. Working together temporarily to try and get by the North Border Motorsports car, who is hanging tough on the outside. Bradley Bishop Jr. doing what he has to do. Hold off Shade Eves and hold off Bob Burns. They're closing by about 2/10 a lap.
The second pack catches up. BBJ's going to have to hold off more than just Eves and Burns. But he's got Dylan Young tucked up right behind him right now, so he's looking pretty good. But 6 laps here is 6 long laps.
Jeffrey White finding his way to the middle. Bobo Jones has lost some help, but Jones has got a good car. He maybe, no, I thought he was going to be able to come down in front of Jeffrey White. Not quite, but that second pack, they're closing by about 2/10. It's going to be mighty close. And with the go-or-go homers, Bouchard and Warren, I mean, they have possibilities to get in through other ways, but for Tip Foster, Allison Rain, and Lane Sanders, they have to get up here and be with the lead of the second pack, because time is ticking, and if they get there, they won't have a whole lot of it. They're 3 wide for second place.
And what I'm looking at right now is Bobo Jones went to the top, and he is getting passed by the 03.
Shade Eves passing Bobo Jones. Instead of Bobo racing in and getting Blake Warren in the field, it is Shade Eves that's taking this opportunity, and Burns is pushing the 03. 5 laps to go.
Oh, they're coming, Noah. 4/10 of a second that time by. They're going to get there. They're singled out. They're drafting perfectly.
You have some strong cars. You have some strong cars here with DeMax, Shelley, and Rodriguez. They're going to pull this second pack right up to them. Oh, but Rodriguez is making it 3 wide back there. That's going to hurt their momentum. But they're 3 wide back here for the transfer position, it looks. Sanford nearly on the corner panel of Jeffrey White. Oh, look at them. They are coming.
They're getting dangerous now. They're getting racy now.
Bouchard trying to get to the lead of the second pack. He wants to race his way in. He doesn't want to use a provisional or get in on speed. To race your way in, they are side by side with Eves and Bobo Jones. Bradley Bishop Jr. doesn't need to get pushed up high. He needs to stay in front of the 76. Meanwhile, at the front, it is Dejon and Dylan Young that are leading this pack. But here comes the second pack.
Got a big head of steam, and I think Bouchard would rather race his way in because he is 3rd in line of the drivers who could potentially get in on speed if the guys who are certain to get in on speed race their way in instead. But I think Bouchard's too far down that list. He's got to try and get up here and race his way in with 3 to go.
That second pack is coming. Rodriguez to Max Shelley. If anyone can win this race from the second pack, if they can claw their way through there, that would be super impressive. They are flying. Rodriguez is going to be all over them on the back straightaway.
One thing they got to do, though, is they can't let the 80 get in their way because we know Burns has just kind of been clinging to this front pack. But now the front pack has started to singled out. But look at the 9. He is hauling.
Matt Rodriguez going to have Eric DeMax and James Shelley right there. They can't let their momentum get broke up. There's going to be 2 to go when they get back to the line. Young has found his way to the inside of Dejon.
Oh, and someone's pitting.
Stephen Pollard III coming down pit road. That's going to end his chances to make the Daytona 500, it seems. But for the transfer position and further back, the second pack, they are there.
the 42 and the 33 right now. They're on the top.
Oh, but
Bouchard's
Bobo!
the first one on the bottom.
Bobo's found his way to the inside. He doesn't have to race with Bradley Bishop Jr., but that could open the doors up. Daniel Bouchard is in a position, possibly. Oh, but Allison Rain, Blake Warren, and Lane Sanders, their hopes of making the 500 it looks like it's going to be over.
Bobo got back behind the 42. 42 got all that help on the top. Dejan's going to lead him to the white here.
The white flag flying. Dejan Weeks leads over Charlie Smith and Dylan Young before the transfer position. Bishop Jr., Bobo Jones, they are in the prime position here. Bouchard and Eves are the next cars out, but they are looking 4 wide. Sanford pushes up onto Max.
Oh, this is going to get racy. This is going to get
3
really
wide,
racy
4
here.
wide. They're wrecking.
They're into it.
They're wrecking on the back straightaway. The pole sitter sideways.
BBJ's in it.
They're crashing further back. Bob Burns is around. Racing back to the start-finish line. Dejan Weeks has the lead. Bobo Jones is the next car to homer. Big crash. Stuck in the wall. Dom Capps has caught the barrier. Luckily, nobody was able to hit him. What a scary accident. They race back to the flag. Dejan Weeks is going to take Gatorade Duel 1. Bobo Jones races in. And Tip Foster is going to get the final spot to get into the Daytona 500.
It's a Red Bull Monster incident all over again. Charles pinched up there. And that took out BBJ. And it lets in a monster car. Oh my goodness.
They wrecked on the final lap. If I remember correctly, looking back at that, it looked like James Shelley was trying to get to the inside to try and get up there and race for the win. And I think he got into Sanford, and Sanford pushed up. Bobo looked like he's very lucky to be able to escape this. We're going to have to get a replay of what just happened. Getting a replay of what happened. Sanford, right behind, was getting a push from James Shelley. Shelley got to the inside of Charles Sanford. The Gardner homers. See Bishop Jr., the 33 of Bobo Jones. Sanford pushed up into the max. That's not a very good angle. We'll have to get another view of that, but you hate to see that for the 42. Bradley Bishop Jr. Lane comes in and hits Bob Burns, ending their chances to make the Daytona 500. And another crash happened down in turn 3. Another view of this accident down in 1 and 2. Shelley got there. Sanford and the max, they made contact there. They pushed up. Bradley Bishop Jr. got sideways. Sanford and Shelley spin on the inside. Chris Dodd getting slammed by Bob Burns.
Watch the 15 and the 83 here. 83 is just gonna kamikaze it. Oh, and that could have been terrible.
That could have been a whole lot worse. The way that barrier caught the car, Dom Capps slid and hit that wall. Lucky that nobody came along and hit him. But that is a shame, though, for Bradley Bishop Jr. that had no other choice but to race his way in, got caught up in somebody else's mess, and is going to fail to qualify for the Daytona 500. Another look at it. 4 wide. Shelley pushing the envelope, getting the inside of Sanford. I thought everything was going to be okay. We've seen 4 wide work in some ways. People taking a peek to the inside. But Sanford makes slight contact with Eric DeMax. And DeMax pushes up. What happens here, looks like DeMax gets a little hook into Bishop Jr. And Bishop Jr. slides into Shelley. And if Bishop Jr. hadn't have clipped his teammate Chris Dodd, I think he would have been okay. But look at Tip Foster making a way down to the inside. Bouchard and Eves, they had to lift. And that allows the 37 to pass all of them on the inside. Burns hits Dodd. Blake Warren hits the 42. Burns goes sideways. Rain's able to miss it, but Lane not so much. And Burns goes for a pretty good ride. Bouchard, Eves, and Allison Rain see these 37 go off into the distance and into the final transfer position. But I have no clue what Shelley and Sanford are doing. They are carrying a lot of speed on the inside. We've seen this many times in the Sony Cup Series history. We've seen some scary accidents before. Shelley's the pole sitter, and he's lucky the Daytona 500 car didn't get wiped out. And Dom Capps gets hung in the barrier. Sanford hits Capps. And, oh my goodness, Bouchard barely gets by.
That would have been awful, awful impact there.
And the race back to the line, which wasn't a whole lot of a race. Eves is going to be the first car out with Tib Foster, who really kind of struggled to be the lead two of the Gorga Homers all race. He's going to get Monster Energy Racing's part-time 37 into the Great American Race. And that is it. What a wild end to the Gatorade Duel 1. Like, Dejon Weeks comes out as the winner. Dylan Young ends up getting second as they race back to the caution in the checkered flag. Bobo Jones racing his way in means Blake Warren's going to be in the Daytona 500. Jeffrey White rounding out the top 5. Matthew Rodriguez in 6th. Eric DeMack 7th. Foster races his way in. James Shelley and John Art rounding out the top 10. The rest of the finishing results is on your screen. Zach, what did you make of Gatorade Duel 1, and what can we expect for Duel 2?
Yeah, well, you know, I kind of called it in a way. Like, I had a feeling, you know, never count anybody out until the last lap. Looked like Bradley Bishop Jr. had it set to make this race, but he got caught up in a wreck. 4 wide. You know, 4 wide can work here, but I think, you know, doing it in the middle of the corner, not a good spot. Sanford should have just straight up blocked James Shelley there. This was a pretty good race, all things considered, for them to keep it green until the end of the race. Of course, like you mentioned, Blake Warren now going to get in on speed, but they've got repairs to make. They got in that accident as well. What to expect for this next race? You know, I think some of the same. Can they keep it green all the way to the finish? I think they could, but they're just going to have to play it a little smarter than what we saw here at the end of this one. But got to give props to the guys who raced their way in there, Bobo Jones and Tib Foster.
I thought that was I thought that was some great racing. Like, the fact that second pack was able to run them down. I think those in the second pack were very motivated by how they caught the leaders at the end, and they wanted to try and get up there and get more starting position and get a higher starting position, and maybe even get up there to win. But Shelley was starting on the pole anyway. I thought that was a rather crazy move that Shelley made. I didn't understand it a whole lot, but Shelley didn't wreck the car. He's going to start P1, and that took out a handful of cars hoping to make the Daytona 500, and that could possibly happen in Gatorade Duel, I believe. I wouldn't be surprised if Gorga Homer does that in Duel 2, but that showed a lot of potential, really. I think we're going to see some good racing in Duel 2, and we're about to find out some cars. The fact that the entire pack was able to stay in the lead pack was something. So we're about to see what Duel 2 is going to look like. Duel number 2. I am on the edge of my seat already, and the cars are just rolling off. The fact that they raced so well in Duel 1 and then had that wreck on the last lap, everyone fighting for position in real estate. Have no clue what we're up against in Duel 2. Wonder if all these drivers are going to race the same way. Alex Benyako is on the front row for the Daytona 500. Jesse Tunner, we have to watch him for this duel because he is a Gorga Homer. He locked himself in on speed. He can be one of those two that race in. DJ Curtis, Jake Bassinger in row 2. It'll be Turner and Shrigley that are the Gorga Homers when we go green. Then it'll be Vince Freeze and Cole Baker. Those are the cars that have a chance. But since Baker, well, for Baker, since Tib Foster raced his way in instead of Marchese, there is no chance that Cole Baker will get in on speed now. It'll only go down to at least the third car if things lined up everything perfectly. Baker cannot get in on speed anymore, and he does not have any owner points, so make the 99 as one of the desperate cars that have to race their way in today.
Yeah, and you know, you talk about guys that raced their way in there with Bobo getting in and then Marchese falling back on speed, Blake Warren falling back on speed. We could see Vince Freeze and Bouchard fall back on speed. At the same token, they don't necessarily need to because they can get in on a provisional 84 31st, 25 33rd. So yeah, that 99 car, he better be hauling. He was good here in the summer. Cole was, I believe, a year ago or so. So he knows his way around this track, but we are green for duel number 2.
Baker is going to be the first of the desperate cars. I'm going to call them the desperate cars, the ones that have no chance other than racing in right now. And just like in Duel 1, we're going 3 wide for the lead already. And Curtis, who was very strong in the shootout, same as DeMax. That's kind of crazy. DeMax and Curtis were up front battling super aggressively at the end of the Sony shootout. They were the ones that make it 3 wide early on. Ryan Griffin, this is the first time we're seeing him on the racetrack in a unofficial race. They're already 4 wide almost. Oh my goodness, Dylan Schwellenberg.
This is the complete opposite of what I expected. They waited until the end of the race to go crazy. They're going crazy right away in this one.
They're 4 wide with the teammates. Fitz Freeze is there. Oh
They're
my
still
goodness.
Pinching.
Baker is trying to get to the front. Oh, they can't afford to wreck on lap 2. They are 4 wide. Vince Freeze. I'm in awe right now watching this. I can't believe we're already 4 wide on lap 2 of the event.
Oh, I don't like the way that's looking. Oh, it's a little too tight there through the corner.
They're nearly 4 wide again with Davidson and Griffin. Here comes Richard Johnson. What is this? They are 4 wide. 4 rows deep. 2 of them.
This is not going to work. This is not going to last. Oh, one of them's going to clear up.
Oh, man. Baker squeezing out of the middle. They desperately need to make their way past that 4 wide. They're still 4 wide. The fact that they've been able to hold it for about a lap and a half. They looked at Gatorade Duel 1 and saw that they can hold it in some cases. I guess they completely forgot what happened on the last lap.
Kyle Collins to get out of it.
I can't believe we didn't have a wreck just then. Dylan Schwellenberg, meanwhile, found his way to the lead with that aggressive 4 wide move. Schwellenberg's always ran well here at his home track. Richard Johnson, the old veteran, he ran well in the Sony shootout. He's always been good at Daytona. Going up to second, the Gorga Homers. Look at them. They are 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, I think that is. Vince Freeze, Cole Baker holding it. Kyle Collins on the inside with Shrigley. I'm amazed that they went 4 wide. If you were going to go 4 wide at any point, it probably was better to do it when the tires were as fresh as they were. How about that? Richard Johnson taking the lead in Gatorade Duel 2. Johnson getting the push from the young kid in Vince Freeze. He's always showed a lot of promise in the Hardy's National Series. He's kind of struggled to get on his feet in the Cup Series, but whenever it comes to Daytona and Talladega, Freeze always seems to shine. Johnson jumps up in front of Dylan Schwellenberg. He's a good car. He'd be a great car to have behind you, pushing you. Baker falls out of the top 2 of the Gorga Homers. 3 wide. Looks like we are having a straggler further back. That's a 74. Jack Halleck. Now, Halleck, he's got an outside chance to make it in through a provisional. His owner points are relatively high. Some of the cars have already raced in. I think Halleck actually, after Duel 1, has a chance to make it in the Daytona 500. I'm not entirely sure where that he stands on that. That's Hannah Allen, who's raced her way in before. Amanda Evans also trying to stay with the lead pack. Luke Martin struggled to stay in the lead pack in the shootout, and he's tucked up behind his teammates on the inside line. That's Doug Lockrow in the 35 for Gatlin Downey Incorporated. This team's usually struggled to stay with the lead pack in seasons past, but that car seems like it's pretty quick in the duel. Able to stay with the leaders. Dunlop Prad, he's had moments of brilliance. He's raced with Cybertron Motorsports before. They are 3x3 all the way back. Nobody can really make a move other than maybe the first 2 rows. Nick Mace has found his way to the front. Shrigley there pushing Kyle Collins. Collins looking in his rearview mirror and seeing that old Spotify car that he used to drive for. Just behind him, England getting aggressive, trying to side draft the #1 car.
Yeah, that's quite a strange feeling when you're leading in a line or you're behind the car you used to drive, because it's like, hey, shouldn't I be in that car right now? Nah, it's a new year, baby.
It's even more strange about coincidences. Like Jacob Hart's there in the 61. He was pushing the 86 in the 1 car. Now Samuel England's jumped up there. Last time Hart was in a full-time ride, it was in the 88 UPS car, and it looked just like that 1 car. And Collins is now leading it. That's a CM Racing prepared car, and Collins has a good piece underneath of him, but he has no choice but to race his way in this dual qualifier. And the way it's looking, he's got strong competition. And on the inside line, how about that? RJ Bishop for Sanders Performance Autosport in the 87, trying to follow Jesse Turner. They have an engine from Turner Performance Racing, so this car didn't qualify all too well, but they expected this 87 with RJ Bishop to be able to hang with the lead pack and have a chance to race his way in. Logan Cloud in the 56, Austin Rogers there in the 55. All of them on the inside. Looks like the inside's where you want to be as for the time being. But up front, Samuel England doing the same thing as what his teammate was doing in Gatorade Duel 1.
These Red Bull Pontiacs seem to be pretty hooked up. Samuel's just, this is kind of surprising to me. Charles, I know, veteran driver, knows his way around the sport, but England, rookie 2019 Napa Pro Series champion. He's just got something about him, very aggressive, very committed to this craft. I think, he's looking at a bright future here if he keeps this up.
I saw mid-pack there, Dunn LaPrade cut his way to the inside. He was following Matt DeLeo, who was back in a full-time car. Breeding Enterprises is basically the old 45 car from last season. I expect this 88 car to do about as well as what Bradley Bishop Jr. was doing. Silver Fox has found his way to the inside. He was very poor, if I want to put it bluntly, in the Sony shootout. He finished 23rd, never really got out of the top, never really got in the top 15 in the Sony shootout. And here he is on the inside, racing in the top 5. Jacob Hart coming around the outside in the 61. Nick Mace has found his way to the front as well. Kev Shear in the 93. Now that 93 is almost practically the same as car 1 that is leading, or second in the top line. Shear, the Hardy's National Series champion. Another one of those drivers that has no choice but to race his way into the Daytona 500 by being in the top 2. However, he does have a provisional he can use, but it really relies on some of the guys in front of him in the provisional order to race their way in as well. Hart going after the 82. And we've been talking about some coincidence in this Gatorade Duel, but Hart won one of his championships driving for Red Bull Racing and being in that, it was the 84 car, but that 82 car. So, I mean, you see some cars around you, and I wonder how that feels, seeing cars that you used to drive for. Hart and Mace, some big names, chasing another young gun of the series of Samuel England. The Red Bulls have been super fast in the early going in both Gatorade Duels. And like you mentioned, Zach, I mean, I kind of wasn't too surprised with Sanford. He's won the Daytona 500 before, won at Talladega before. But Samuel England, I don't know if he just has that good of a car or he's just very good with defending the lines. Nick Mace we know he's very good.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It could just be these Red Bull cars might just be really, crafted out in the aero department. With the new package and everything, we're not going 220 plus anymore, so you don't really have to rely on corner grip as much. It's really all about the aero. So, these Red Bull cars, I think they're just really hooked up. They've got as much drag reduced as possible, but look at this. You got a Shrigley car going for the race lead. What's going on here?
JSR gets some help from Monster Energy Racing. They're a very, very tightly aligned partnership there. And they've been working with the 18 and the Joseph Shrigley Racing Camp a lot more in the last year or two. And especially getting Jeff James a top driver. Look at Shrigley, though. putting his own car in danger. It looks like England was smart enough to back out of that. Shrigley on the inside, trying to get up there to the lead. But Jeff James, a past Daytona 500 champion, 10-time winner of the series, giving that car a good ride to the front. Shear has been able to hold his own on the inside there in the 93 car. That's another car trying to make his Sony Cup Series debut, or the team's trying to make their debut in the Daytona 500. Another team trying to earn that last charter.
Yeah, and Shea Bignacco Racing, they are gunning for that charter. So they're going to do all they can in this part-time schedule to try and be in contention for that. And they've got a lot of good drivers like Kev Shear ready to go get it for them. So it's going to be something cool to watch throughout the year.
Very quietly, Alex Bignacco has found his way to the front. He started on the front row for the Daytona 500. They're 4 wide with Will Goss. Oh my goodness, they're nearly wrecking there off turn 2. Sorted it out. But very quietly, we were talking about Bignacco found his way back to the front. The fact that Silver Fox, that team has really turned something around in their program, or maybe their shootout car is not as good as the 500 car. James has a heck of a run on Silver Fox there. Top 3 breaking away. It's lap 15. Usually, I guess that's around the time where we can expect tire wear to kick in.
Yeah, this was about the same point in the first dual race we saw this happen. So they're going to string out, and then once this momentum dies down, I expect them to accordion back up around lap 20. And then we should see them string out again around lap 28 right before the pit window opens up.
England lost the lead, trying to get back up there to it. But for the transfer position, we kind of lost touch with it a little bit. But it is Shrigley and Kyle Collins. Shrigley in the 86, and the 1 of Kyle Collins. Oh my goodness, they're going 4 wide almost. Samuel England, again, trying to find his way back to the lead. That is some aggressive driving. Some young drivers, they're willing to hang it out there. Shrigley in the 86, the 1 of Kyle Collins. Then you got to go to Vince Freeze, Kev Shear, and Jesse Turner. Back, the Cybertron Motorsports cars leaning on Dylan Schwellenberg, Davidson, and Curtis, nearly crashing off turn 2.
That was a very scary moment there. You don't want to wreck your own cars together like that. A good save there by the 19 of DJ Curtis.
Curtis, runner-up in the Daytona 500 last season. Cybertron Motorsports has brought a very fast piece. Looks like they're trying to wait for everything to iron out. It's for some Gorga homers back here. Dunn LaPrade, Logan Cloud, RJ Bishop, Doug Lockrow. Lockrow's a pretty good driver for that team to have. They can get in position after the pit stop window. They could be in a good position. Man, the 88 Matt DeLeo pushed up there. That could have been very bad. He's trying to find his own sideways.
Oh, this is not good. We know what happened in Duel 1 when this happened. Watch that 88. Baskinger's going to merge back up fine.
Oh, my God. What is DeLeo?
The grass.
Oh, there
no,
they
that's
go.
A wreck.
They're wrecking. Matt DeLeo crashing up into the wall.
It straight. Is that a caution? Did they throw the caution for that?
Did the caution flag? Yes, it did. The caution flag is out. Alex Bignacco is going to take the yellow flag. Jordan Fisher, his hopes to make the Daytona 500 is over. That car is all beat up, has no owner points. Did not qualify.
That's a tough break for Jordan Fisher, man. He was riding the momentum of that Napa Truck Series Battle at the Beach exhibition 1 week ago, and it's all crumbled here before him. But this is really going to just take the strategy out of it. Noah, we're going to see everybody pit here, and they're all going to be good to make it on gas. Ain't no question.
We saw DeLeo get pushed up. Maybe it was because the car wasn't handling all that good or something, but Bassinger kind of came up there. Not sure if Bassinger got tight or if DeLeo came up. Maybe have to get a better view of it, but DeLeo kind of reckless here. Griffin, maybe he could have been a little more wiser and backed out of that, but that all could have been avoided if the 88 would have just lifted down in the grass. Austin Rodgers in the 55. He's got points to try and get in through a provisional. I think he's locked in through a provisional the way Gatorade Duel went through. But he's not going to be able to race in with that damage. I think he might be the only other one that has damage other than Jordan Fisher. Going down into turn 1. Yeah, he just got tight.
And it gets tight, and yeah, Baskinger like just inched up into him. That creates the situation, but DeLeo, you know, he should have been wiser to back it down. And, you know, Griffin makes that move to the inside, and he's not thinking the 88's going to come up there.
Griffin in the 3 car, he was expecting the 88 to have already backed out of it, and slides up the track into Rogers and Jordan Fisher. Fisher not going to be able to make the Daytona 500. Bassinger, for good measure, gets doored by DeLeo, who had spun him down there anyway. No other Gorga Homer, though, was involved. We're going to have pit stops and re-rack them. Nobody will lose touch with the pack here due to the pit stops. It'll all happen under yellow. Coming back to the restart, DJ Curtis has emerged with the race lead. Now, Curtis did a very odd strategy. You know, he came down pit road and only got gas and some damage repaired, but he was able to beat everyone off pit road. Now, Alex Bianco was the leader, so it's a very odd call that DJ Curtis, you know, he was involved in that wreck. So Curtis a little off the pace, and another one that's off the pace, Cole Baker in the 99. And Baker is one of those cars that have to race his way in, and on pit road, he ran right in the back of the 40 car of Dunlop Pratt. And Baker, one of those cars for Cybertron Motorsports. You know, that team very lucky to have Blake Warren get in on speed, but Baker just not good enough on speed. He had to race his way in. And it seems like he's trying to hang in with the pack, but he's just a little off the pace.
Yeah, that front nose crumpled up. That is hurting this car tremendously in air. If he can get right up behind someone, I think he can maybe get up to speed, but it's not looking good for this 99. This was a terrible circumstance for them, but it looks like the pack is actually pretty spread out. I'm not sure if there are some other cars maybe might have little pieces of damage, because they are a lot more spread out than I would have thought.
DJ Curtis, really, Curtis and Baker kind of really slow here. You know, Curtis has some slight damage, but it shouldn't be hurting them all that much. That team did repair it a little bit. They were able to get out first. But yeah, he's a little off the pace.
Look at Zayden Davidson back there. He is, I don't know what his deal is back here. He is in this group.
Zayden Davidson also looking very slow. We know Griffin, you know, he had that damage by hitting DeLeo. So that's why he's back here. But Zayden Davidson, the entire Cybertron Motorsports team, like, in shambles it looks. And Cole Baker, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to race his way in. You know, the other Cybertron Motorsports car, the 4th car of Blake Warren, he's in on speed. Gotta wonder if maybe they wouldn't put Cole Baker in the car if Baker can't make his way in the field, since he's the full-time guy. But meanwhile, the Cybertron Motorsports cars have caused this pack to split up.
Now we've got to see who we've got up here that needs to race in. You got the 93 and the 25 side by side. The 86 has to race in. Actually, no, Shrigley is locked in on speed. He does not have to race his way in.
Now, remember also, Turner is also a Gorga Homer as well. They traded points with the Team Velocity cars, and the 17. He's also one of those cars they have to beat, and that's a fast car, too. Turner's going to try and win this race.
Yeah, so right now, actually, as they lead it, it would be the 17 and the 25 racing their way in.
And how about that? That just shows, if you're a Gorga Homer coming in not locked in, you have to almost gun for the win in the duel.
Yeah, this 9-car pack, if they continue to hold that 2-second gap to 10th on below, you know, you've got the 17, the 25, the 93, the Shear. 86, they're all up in here.
Shear has to race his way in. Turner and Freeze, they have a chance. And then Shrigley's also in here. The 93 is the only car in this pack that is in a must race his way in position. And Shear actually has a teammate in this pack in Alex Bianco. Shear was getting the push from Bianco, but pulled down the inside and Benyako pushes Freeze back ahead.
Yeah, so this is really interesting with Turner leading it. If you had Shrigley get up there, that would let Vince and Bouchard from the first duel get in on time, which would shift the provisional game. At the same hand, if Vince Freeze doesn't race his way in, he can get on a provisional, as can Bouchard. So, you know, if you're looking at all that as a race fan, you're like, well, I want the 93 to race his way in because he doesn't have anything to fall back on. The 25 does, the 17 does, the 86 does, the 84 does. Like, they've all got stuff to fall back on. It's the 93's the one man here who has to finish top 2 out of these go homers.
As a fan, you pull for the underdog. The 17-25 and even the 86 right there, you know, like you mentioned, they could get in through multiple ways, speed or provisional, and it doesn't matter for them. I think any of these cars, they can afford to maybe not be in that top 2, and they'll get in through some way. Kyle Collins, RJ Bishop, they're on the outside looking in. They need to close that gap. Zachary Fitzwater's the only Fisher Motorsports car that's locked in for this Daytona 500. Now for provisionals, you know, there's 4 spots to get in through provisionals. Hayden Klein, he's on the sidelines hoping that Luke Martin can race his way in the 6 car, because it's Martin and Klein, the past champions, that are hoping to use the PCP. But Martin looks like he might be one of the 4 in provisional land, being the 2020 champion. Hayden Klein, he's very far back in the provisional list. Likely, I don't think at all Klein could get in through just a provisional. I think he would have to use a PCP. Martin, he has no other choice. Either race in or use that PCP. Hannah Allen and Dunn LaPrade hanging on to this pack. But there's no real challenger, Zach, I don't think. You know, in Duel 1, we had Matt Rodriguez, James Shelley, and we had a lot of fast cars in the second pack. Here, it looks like it's, I mean, Collins, and we saw Silver Fox and even Johnson. They were quick. Bassinger, I think, has some sort of damage that's holding him back. He's a little off the pace, it seems, in the second pack. But their chances to run the leaders down, it looks like it's diminishing.
Yeah, and I think the big thing because of that is in Duel number 1, the first pack, the lead pack, they were 3 wide. They were totally unorganized. The second pack, they were double file at the most organized, very like inline drafting bumper to bumper. And it's the opposite here. Now you can see in the distance, they look uniform now, but they've lost about a second as Passenger continues to make moves, making it 3 wide, and you see they lose another 0.3 of a second there. But, you know, to touch on the provisional thing, I'm looking at the list, and it's Daniel Bouchard first, if need be, Shrigley second, which he's in on time, so he doesn't have to worry about that. The next one up is Vince Freeze. Then we know Bobo Jones raced in to the main event, and then the 55 of Austin Rogers is next up. And then you've got the 77 of, I believe it's Hannah Allen. And then the 96 is the next car on that list, but I'm not sure if that car was entered into this event.
The provisionals, it's going to be so hard to know who's going to get in through those provisionals. Now, it really is going to come down to who races in, honestly, with Turner being in already on speed, but with Vince Freeze and Joseph Shrigley, you know, they're up here mixing it about. Keb Shear, though, has found his way to the inside of Vince Freeze. He is going to be the underdog that a lot of fans are going to be watching. Richard Johnson, again, just hoping he can get some sort of push, but he doesn't seem like he's got a strong enough pusher. Will Goss and Kyle Collins, they're double file behind Johnson, and I don't think they have what it takes to be able to run the leaders down. Vince Freeze gets kick dropped all the way to the back of the lead pack, and Shear really struggling on the inside line that allows Shrigley to get ahead of him.
Yeah, so looking at provisionals, like I was saying, it would be Bouchard, Freeze and Austin Rogers, but that would depend on who races in here. Because if Shrigley and Turner race in, the speed falls to Freeze and Bouchard. So then that would make the provisionals be the 55, 74, and 21, I believe, if I'm looking at that correctly.
And if you're Austin Rogers, the fact that some of those are racing in or qualifying in, Rogers wrecked. Austin Rogers is going to get in the field, it seems. And then Jack Halleck is in this second pack. So Halleck looks like could be in the Daytona 500 through a provisional. And Pollard III was in Duel 1. He could possibly get in. And I don't think it goes. I don't think it can get as far as down to Kev Shear. Obviously, unless Halleck raced in at this point.
I believe that was the damage pack there, Noah. I think those guys are on the verge of being caught. Yeah, that is the slow and damaged off-pace group.
They're going
and
into
it's crazy
turn
to
one.
see. Crazy to see two Mercedes in that group there because of damage.
For Cole Baker in the 99, you know, he
What
had no
happened?
other way to get in.
What happened to the 10 of Dylan Schwallenberg? What's he doing back here? He's got roof damage?
No. I have no clue what happened to Dylan Schwallenberg. It looks like his hood's buckled up. Maybe he got in the back of somebody on pit road.
Had to have been. He was flying earlier.
Yeah, you see his hood buckled. He had to have gotten in the back of somebody on pit road. Griffin, we know, was in that accident. Same thing with Curtis. You know, Baker got in the back of somebody on pit road. I think Dylan Schwallenberg had the same thing happen as Cole Baker. Got in the back of somebody on pit road. You know, D'Elia was
Might
in a
have been
wreck.
that 65. That 65 back end is very beat up.
And Amanda Evans, she wasn't involved in any accident either until the round of pit stops.
These drivers, they're going to have to be careful about that at the 500 because you don't want to do that to yourself that early in the race because then you are out of it. Forget a 50-lap race. We're talking 200 laps.
Luke Martin, the lead of the Gorga Homers in this second pack, but it doesn't matter. They're losing touch with the leaders. Martin knows he's in the race through a past champions provisional. Doug Lockrow needs to find his way in, but they can't do it unless they catch the main pack. Collins also the same way. Logan Cloud likely not able to get in through a Provo. RJ Bishop needing to race his way in. Same with Dunn LaPrade. Hannah Allen, her teammate gets in through a Provo possibly, but Allen likely will not. And Shear, again, is the last of the Gorga Homers in the lead pack. As we come to line, it'll be 9 to go.
Yeah, and I was actually looking at the provisional order here, and the 93 is 8th on the list, but that is one position out. There is no feasible scenario where the 93 uses that provisional to make this race. He has got to be top 2 here at the end of this thing.
All because Luke Martin and Hayden Klein get the nod to get that last spot due to that past champions provisional.
And that has got to hurt. Turner's pretty much, I think, got one of these 2 spots on lock. You know, the TPR cars are just too good. It looks like Shrigley might have a little bit of an edge over Vince Freeze, but, you know, Kev needs to start making some moves here in the draft because it looks like the 86 and the 25 just got that little extra on them.
Shrigley and Freeze look a little better than the 93 car. And Kev Shear, that's a startup team, getting a lot of assists from CM Racing, trying to make this Daytona 500. He's 8th in the race, but right now he is 3rd in his own race. Or actually, he's 4th in his own race. They're 3 wide, with 2 of the Gorga Homers leading this race.
And you just got to think, what the crazy thing to look at here is that, you know, it doesn't really matter who races their way in here out of these three of the 17, 86, 25. If two of them race their way in or one of them race their way in, the other two get in on speed, because Blake Warren is already getting in on speed since Bobo Jones raced his way in Duel 1. So it's more so of, do I want to race my way in so I can start 4th, or do I want to fall back and start 38th? That's kind of what we're looking at right now.
You're looking at a situation here where Turner, Shrigley, and Freeze know they're in the Daytona 500 through some circumstance, either racing in their qualifying speed or getting that provisional. And it really doesn't matter who gets them 2 spots, as long as they don't let the 93 get it, which even then they're still going to get in, it looks like. But it just is going to help their position in the 500.
If there was one more go-home car in the same situation as the 93 up here, then it would be a must-need to, like, finish in the top 2. You would want Turner and Freeze to be top 2 if you're Shrigley, and on the other hand, if you're Freeze, you want Shrigley to be one of the 2 with Jesse Turner, because then that second car, if the second car with Kev, say like if Kyle Collins was up here, if Kevin Collins were the top 2, then I believe Freeze would get in on a provisional anyway. So actually, I don't think it would matter at all unless you had like 4 more go-home cars up here. I think in the situation we've been presented, they're set.
Now the race itself, Samuel England is back out front. You know, he was really good on fresh tires. Alex Benyako trying to get up here. He's going to lead the field to the green flag from on the outside line. Jesse Turner, though, would love to finally win the Daytona 500, and what better way it would be if to get a win heading into the Daytona 500. He's side by side with Samuel England. Now Shrigley in the 86, he knows he's going to be in some situation. He came into the Speed Weeks in the top 3 of the provisionals, so he's at least in through that, but he could be in through speed as well. And Jeff James to the inside of him in a Shrigley-owned car. Jacob Harp, he's got a Turner engine under the hood for Team Velocity. He was Hero Motorsports last season. Nick Mace has been in the back of this field in car 20.
Eva's fallen to the back of this group. He's got to try and get some suck up. If he can get to the bottom and have the bottom past the top, you've got Shrigley and Freeze on the top right now. So you're looking at a clear sight to the top 2, but that top side is just so strong.
The top is really moving right now. We're looking at a possible situation with Shear that reminded me a lot of Bob Burns in Gatorade Duel 1. Burns was able to hang with the pack, but he wasn't able to make the moves as everyone else in the pack. And I think Shear at this point really needs to have somebody pushing him and needs a little luck with somebody getting shoved to the back. So with 3 laps to go.
Well, I'll tell you what, my money here at the end of this duel is on either the 17 or the 82 getting the win, because they have been the strongest out of this pack.
Red Bull Racing has flexed some muscle in these Gatorade duels. Sanford led a lot. England's led a lot. But Jesse Turner, the defending champion, who won 10 times in the 2021 season, looking to put another victory in the win column as we come back to 2 to go. Nick Mace was at the back of this pack the entire time, and he's found his way to 3rd.
That experience, knowing how to play the lines. You know, you jump to the top, gain a position, jump back to the bottom, gain 2 positions.
Oh, but here comes Vince Freeze. Oh, the tire wear kicking in just a little bit. Vince Freeze bobbling a little bit. The 93 not able to find an opening. A lap and a half to go. Here comes England. Side by side for the lead into turn 3. As for the Gorga homers, it is Shrigley in the 86 surging ahead. Vince Freeze, he knows he's in. It doesn't really matter. He's trying to benefit his starting position. We come to the white flag.
Yeah, this is a big thing right here. Like, you know, Shrigley right now would be looking at starting in 8th place.
Oh, they're Freeze. 3 wide. for the race lead.
Oh, could this relegate Turner starting at the back if Freeze can get by him?
Turner's going to fall in line behind England. Shrigley doesn't really have any help. Freeze is to the outside. Freeze with a push from Nick Mace by Shrigley. And it's over for Shear. Unless there's a wreck, but it's... Oh, Turner trying to pull a Dylan Young here from the shootout to the inside of England. Could get a help from his teammate, or affiliate teammate at the Fords.
Oh, they're going to go 3.
3 wide. Oh, my goodness. England at the line, I think.
Oh,
yes,
my
God.
Did.
Just barely.
Turner had it.
Just barely. Samuel England edges out Jesse Turner by 6/1000ths of a second.
That's amazing.
What a finish.
That was amazing.
Samuel England goes to victory lane again, and this time his first time in the Sony Cup Series in a qualifying race. But, man, Shrigley finishes 4th, but he's going to have to start at the back because he'll have to fall back on either speed or provisional. Kev Shear's going to finish 9th, and he's going to fail to qualify.
So that right there, you've got Turner racing in, Freeze racing in. That means Shrigley falls back on speed, and then Daniel Bouchard falls back on speed. So I believe your provisionals will be either Martin or Klein, whoever finished higher, getting the PCP there. And then it should be the 55, 74, and 21 getting in on provisional, I believe.
To see here,
that is the case.
It looks like Marchese's going to get in on speed, be the first one. Then it's going to be Shrigley, Blake Warren, and Daniel Bouchard to get in on speed. And then for the owner points to get in through provisional, it's going to be Austin Rogers, Jack Halleck, Stephen Pollard III, and the past champions provisional to Luke Martin.
Which is crazy because at the end of Duel 1, when we were coming to the white, we saw the 21 pit, and we thought that meant he was done regarding making the 500. But this played out in their favor, the way this second duel went.
Had looked like a mechanical failure right there at the end. He was coming down pit road, like when no one else was coming down pit road at the end. And he's going to get the last spot to get in through a provisional that isn't the PCP for Texan. That team did a good job in the preseason to work some deals and get some points. And they're going to start 41st in the Daytona 500 with Pollard III. A long list of drivers that are going to fail to qualify for the Daytona 500. It goes in numerical order. Gonna pull my list up here. I had it somewhere. But a long list of drivers failing to qualify for this Daytona 500. And it happens every year. Lane Sanders in the 00. Then the 03 of Shade Eves, Kyle Collins. The 2-car Jordan Fisher, James Ellison in the 31, Doug Lockrow 35, the 38 J.D. Martin, 40 Dunn LaPrade, 42 Bradley Bishop Jr. caught up in that wreck, looked like he was going to get in. That's a heartbreak. Logan Cloud, the 56, failing to qualify. Bobby Jones failing to qualify in the 63. 65 Amanda Evans is out. 68 Hayden Klein, past champion. He doesn't get in because the PCP goes to someone else. Mitchell Collins fails to qualify. Hannah Allen's going to miss the race. Bob Burns was very close, but he's going to miss the race. RJ Bishop is out. Kev Shear so close, but not quite. And Cole Baker in the 99 for Cybertron Motorsports fails to qualify. I think I might be forgetting somebody, but that is a long list of drivers that's going to miss this race.
And it was an even longer list a year ago when we had, I think it was 82 drivers vying to get into this race.
Oh yeah, we had a load of cars, a record-breaking entry list. Happens every year. Everyone comes down, they give it their all in the Gatorade duels, and they get to be in part of a race. You know, some teams like the 65 team with Amanda Evans, that was their only race all last year. They failed to qualify every other race, but they were able to be a part of a Sony Cup Series race in the qualifying races. So it's always good to come out and try and give it your best in the Gatorade Duels. Sometimes the Duels are some of the best races run all season. Duel 1 had an amazing race. In Duel 2, it's a shame that we didn't get another yellow flag to bunch the field back up. Cybertron Motorsports cars split the pack up and ended the chances for some, but that's all part of the game sometimes.
Yeah, and that's just the way it's going to go. But now, you know, we had two races of 31 cars here. We had the shootout that was about 24, 25 cars. Now you're going to have a full field of 42. So we'll see what kind of changes that makes to the racing. I think it's going to be most of the same at the front, but we could get a little more four-wide action. And watch out for the big one come Sunday. You know, things are going to get crazy, but if you're a Napa Truck Series driver, you've got something big coming for you tomorrow night. You know, first race of the season, the Daytona 200, 80 laps around Daytona, Noah. It's going to be a sight to see. Great race, I think, on tap for everybody this weekend. All three series combined.
Oh, yeah. We get to start off the 2022 season. It all kicks off this weekend, and I can't wait to see it, and hope to see you there for the next races.